Rebranding feels productive, right? But rarely fixes what's actually broken. Today, in this episode of Strategy Talks, I'm hosting Beatrice Gutknecht as she breaks down why most companies don't have a branding problem, they have a positioning problem, and how that misalignment shows up everywhere in unclear messaging, content that doesn't convert, and sales conversations that stall. You'll learn how to spot the difference and what to change so your brand actually drives pipeline, because that's what we all want, right? If your content isn't converting or your messages keep changing, this is the conversation that you need. This is Strategy Talks. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Dorien Morin-van.
Hello, everyone. Right? We are back with another episode of Strategy Talks. I'm so excited you're here. I'm here. My guest is here in the green room. We're going to have a great conversation. Before I bring her onto the stage with me this morning, I want to welcome all of you who are here live. You might be watching this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube. If you feel like it, we'd love to know in the comments if that you're joining us and where you're watching us from and maybe where you are located. I'm in the US. I'm in near Killington, Vermont, and my guest is joining us from Spain today. So I'm very excited that you're here. If you are listening to Strategy Talks as a podcast, I want to extend a special welcome to you because we value our podcast listeners as well. So I'm going to introduce you to my new friend, just met this morning for the first time in person right here in the green room. Welcome, Beatrice Gutknecht. How are you today?
Hey. Thanks so much for having me on today. And yeah, I'm fantastic. Lovely weather. Can't complain at all.
Yeah, in Spain, right? So what is the temperatures like right now?
See, the problem is I wouldn't be able to do this in Fahrenheit.
That's okay. You can tell us in Celsius.
It's 17 degrees Celsius, so
that's about nice. 60 something, 68 maybe. Yeah, that's nice. 66, it's nice. Yeah.
The fact that you're actually able to do that just like that,
well,
wow.
It's approximate. It's approximate. I've learned after all those years go back and forth between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So we're going to talk about rebranding. And so I'm going to just make this a very easy, quick first question, right? So what's the main difference between rebranding and repositioning?
So rebranding in the way that you often see it is pretty much you put a new logo or you put a fresh name or you change up the writing, but nothing on the inside is actually changing. And a big signal of this, you can go and check either your socials or your website. Look at your closest competitor or two competitors and overlap them. Now, maybe they look different, but if it sounds the same, the wording is similar, then it's not working. Basically you're not standing out. You're just creating additional noise. So where repositioning comes in is we're looking at what your market dominating position might be. And it's usually you need to get uncomfortable and, base it either, base it on your differentiation and a few other factors, depending on where you're at, what things you're doing, and then implementing that inside and outside of the business. So marketing, it guides the marketing decision. So your marketing actually works. So say, for example, if you want to get fresh copy, it's actually different. Or it guides your sales conversations. So you're not getting called in all the like big close deals, because they already have that distinction in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And even business decisions. So say, for example, say you move earlier on in the buyer cycle as a positioning, you base all of your decisions. Okay, so we're going to hire. Does this person add into this direction? Or do they match with these values? So it's all encompassing.
Yeah. So if I'm trying, as you started talking, we use this metaphor, like when you're trying to figure out what you sound like to other people. We always say you can't read the label when you're on the inside, right? If you're in a jar of jelly. So with the rebranding, you just slap a new label on it, and that's all you do. You put a new label on it, maybe a new top, new packaging. That's it. And then, but if you're talking about repositioning, you're doing also what's on the inside and give them the flavor and, the new, all the other stuff. So I love that. As you started talking, it's like, ooh, I know the difference. This is great. And for those of you listening and watching, this might be helpful, right? So that's the difference between just, changing up. And, these big conversations, you've seen them, Beatrice, on LinkedIn about these, big brands, changing up their logo. Oh my God. Do we want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who Cracker Barrel is. It's a US brand. That was a big conversation earlier.
That was just like, wow. Wow. Everybody's trying to do cleaner or more professional, but then it's like, okay, but you look like everybody else. You've just lost what you stood for. Same as like what Jaguar did. And the best example, I could give is if you're going to the supermarket, right? And say, for example, you have a regular go-to bottle of wine or like a ice cream. You go there and you're like, oh, wait, it's not there. It's missing. And you're like, you have that moment of, okay, I'll just have to like find something else. And the thing is, they might have just completely changed the packaging, what you just mentioned before. But you've automatically either lost that sale or you've gotten that loss of trust. And once, you know this already, but once you lose that trust, to gain that back again, that takes a long time. And, you've already spent that amount, say, for example, for a rebrand, you're like, oh, I need to double down into this. And it just makes it so much harder and so much longer to gain that back again. And even market value, right? Same as what happened with Jaguar.
Yeah.
And likely also Cracker Barrel. I didn't see their stock prices on there, but it would have taken a hit.
I think it was a uproar, like it was the customers, right? Because they are a restaurant. And so people just were like, this does not look authentic. And I have to say, the logo, when I first moved to the US and I saw the Cracker Barrel logo, I thought it was a restaurant from the 1900s. I mean, it was like, it's very old and very old fashioned, but it works because it projects family values, right? Old timey food. It's the hearty food that your grandmother used to cook. It is full of salt and butter and all the things that you normally wouldn't cook at home, but you go there for comfort. And that's what that logo conveyed. And so when they changed it, people were just like, yeah, that's not what this is all about. So I totally get that. So as I was asking you that question, my next question bubbled up. It's not in any of my notes. This is going to be like fly by the seat of our pants conversation.
I love it.
What is a life cycle in a business that, or, if you have a personal brand, a life cycle event that would make you stop and say, it's time for a repositioning?
A reposition. It's usually at the beginning, right? Like you're going very much based on your own brand, right? Like your own voice. And that works to a certain degree, to a certain point. But then, so when you start hiring, when you want to get marketing involved, when you want to get ads, them trying to replicate that voice is when it's going to hit that wall.
Okay.
So you're at that point, you should be established.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely do not do this right at the beginning, because you want to be testing. You want to like try different angles, different voices, different things to see what really fits. This is when you're established, when you got like that clear feedback, like, hey, this is the right direction now, so that we can properly spend our money like on marketing. So say, for example, you want to get ads, you want to get a clean, like, marketing and direction where every dollar spent there actually works.
Mm-hmm.
That's the time to jump in and have that clear reposition.
Okay.
So that marketing can be like, okay, cool. We want to do this campaign. So let's say, for example, Cracker Barrel, right? How can we make, when customers come into Cracker Barrel, that the team have that same kind of voice that matches to that theme, to that idea in your head, so that it's already growing?
That's really great. Yeah, there are some, I'm thinking about restaurants because it's morning here and I'm hungry. So, but there are definitely some American restaurants that have that.
Yeah.
Like you walk into certain restaurants and they say, hello, welcome to, like Moe's is one of them. Welcome to Moe's. Every single employee says that as you walk in, and you go stand in line and wait to order your burrito or, your rice bowl, whatever you're ordering, but you are greeted the same way in every single franchise that you walk into. Mm-hmm. And that's comfort and that's recognition. And that makes a lot of sense. So why do you think so many companies reach for the rebrand when they really need to be repositioning? What is it? Are they ill-informed? Do they not understand the difference? Is it an easier lift? Are they talked into it by people who don't know what they're talking about and they need somebody like you? What is it? Let's get to the bottom of that question.
It depends. There's a lot of the last one.
Okay.
Because the thing is, right, rebrands, hey, let's give you a new logo, let's give you some new visuals. It's a visual thing. You can see the before and after. So it feels like there's a change. So right. Maybe you've seen the when Staples changed their logo and they had their whole team there, like they had a whole announcement with the fresh logo, and everybody who's watching it going, what's the difference? But like it's like either that, hey, this is like, oh, something's going to change because it's an easy visual before and after. Another thing is when there's a new CEO hired and they're like, oh, I want to leave my mark on the business. And so like again, it's an easy, like, oh, let's rebrand it.
Mm-hmm. Is there ego involved in this piece?
Sometimes there is, that's something to be clear to watch out for, because that can do so much more damage. Because the longer you're established, the more that association is there. Even if they haven't, customers haven't reached out, they're still been thinking about it. Mm-hmm. So the moment you're like, oh, wait, no, it's a new logo, or it's new visuals, or like, oh, we're going for a legacy kind of feel. What does that even mean? All this subjective wording.
Yeah.
All this like lovely, fluffy things. We have better service, or we care, or like these sorts of things.
Yeah. I just want to say hello to Nicholas. He's here. He's listening to us and he's having his coffee. I'm having my coffee. Are you having your coffee? Yours is empty.
I finished my coffee. I finished my coffee.
Well, for you, it's after lunch, right? I mean, for me, it's like 8 a.m, and you is a little later. So yeah, it's a perfect time for coffee. Anytime is perfect time for coffee, in my opinion. So I have a follow-up question on this. Is there a type of company or stage growth where there is this confusion between rebranding and repositioning? And I'm so surprised at a big company like Jaguar that they allowed the rebranding part, because I don't think there was much repositioning going on there. So is there, I guess it happens through all stages of companies, from small business, solopreneurs, founders to, enterprise businesses. But is there a stage of growth maybe where this is this like, oh, we hit the 5-year mark, or we hit the 10-year, or we're stale? Like, is there something there that people will kind of be like, it's time?
It's usually one of the friction points. So like, a lot of the time where we're stale, or, we considering moving to like a new market, what do we do, etc. So it really depends. There's no one clear like, hey, it's a 5 million mark and everybody's like, oh, let's rebrand. It does depend, but there's usually that, oh, we should do something, like same as that shiny thing syndrome. That's
shiny object syndrome. Yeah, like, let's go to this thing. Let's go to, like, it's like the fishing lure. That's the image that I have with shiny object syndrome, where you're angling in the water, you put that shiny mirror in, and you're trying to get the fish to come, and there's really nothing on there. It's just a lure. It's not even bait. And people just go from this to this, or that squirrel. Oh, squirrel. And, you go off and go over here. Right. Yeah. It's like that. So if a founder came to you today and said, our content isn't working, Beatrice, what do I need? What's your first question to them?
I would check what they've done before this.
Okay.
And what the intention is for the future, right? Like how far along are they in this journey?
Okay.
Because maybe it is like other factors. Maybe it doesn't involve the repositioning just yet, right? Then I'd have a look. Okay, what does this content look like? What have they tried? Like, have you tried like different kinds of things, and this is nothing's really working, in which case definitely that's a perfect time for repositioning? Or is this still early on where you're testing different things? It's like, okay, well, maybe try like a few different kinds of messaging first, just like especially in the early days, to see what really hits, what really resonates, and go back and have those conversations with people rather than just relying on content. And I know, like, we both met on LinkedIn, where it's like sometimes the reach isn't necessarily there to get that feedback. So that really involves having those conversations and making sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, by the way, Nicholas said that's a question he asked you. So, or he asked, I'm that person who comes and asks that question. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around a bigger company sitting around the table, understanding that something isn't working. Their content is blah. Maybe they sound like their competition. And now there's internal stakeholder conflict. Some might agree that, we need to rebrand because that's a quick fix, or they think it's a quick fix. Some people understand what repositioning can do. Have you ever been in that room with the stakeholders where you either have to convince them that it's time to reposition versus rebranding, or do they usually come to you when they know what they need? And when there is that conflict, how do you deal with that? How do you either resolve it or show the difference between the two to them?
If there's an internal conflict in terms of what they need to do, of course we'll have that discussion. But if they can't decide between each other, that's something that I'm not going to get involved in, because that also shows a sign that maybe now's not the right time for repositioning, but rather, maybe leadership training or some kind of internal workings, right? Like, I'll be the first one to say, hey, maybe repositioning is not necessarily what you need, because the point is you're supposed to win, right? Like, if after working together there is not like that improvement, it reflects both of us. And
Right.
I still, it's completely beyond me how people jump into business and be like, hey, work with me, it'll be fine, it reflects back. But to me, it is having that conversation with the stakeholders and being like, okay, why do you think that's the case? And usually, as soon as we start talking about, like, how the marketing reflects, because they've normally tried a lot of different things. They've tried, different messaging. They've tried like ads, SEO, a fresh website, and none of those have worked. And that's usually the point where we're having this conversation. And, once they understand, like, hey, marketing can only come in where they're either looking at the industry, what else is going on in the industry, again, adding into noise. They're looking at trends, again, adding into the noise, or you've got that clear positioning, which is already like something for them to go forward. Like, hey, let's do a campaign based on this. Let's do our SEO based on this. Then it can work.
Yeah. And for those of you listening or watching, we have another 10 minutes to talk, but I just want to point out that Beatrice has positioned herself as a badass in repositioning. And I love that. I love that your name, the way you talk, your LinkedIn banner, your website reflects everything that you do for your clients. You live what you teach, you live what you do. And I love that. So if nothing else, if you're here in the middle of this conversation and you're like, oh, I'm getting a lot of stuff out of it, but I just want to check out to see if she's the real deal. She is, and you got to go check out her website. We'll put it all in the show notes. But that's what, we were talking earlier in the green room about, having guests on our show. And it's like, I kind of know the vibe. I knew you would be good because I've already checked you out, and I knew you were an expert on what you do, and you've positioned yourself as that expert. And that's what I want to give to my audience at all times. So that's kind of like a side note. So let's go into the specifics. How long does a real repositioning project take, and what should change visibly at the end of it, if anything?
It depends on the business.
Okay.
But visuals come last.
Okay.
They're the last thing, right? And then it's very much like, okay, here's the direction to go with this. And the shortest time frame like that I would recommend, like, yeah, we can go in and I can be like, hey, so based on this, you can, I can do the research and check in and be like, hey, you can take these directions and give you like a plan. But at the end of the day, you should be involved in this journey because it is reflecting your business and everything that you're moving forward.
Yeah.
So I'd say minimum 12 weeks, but ideally, and this is with the clients that I've worked with before, we're working 8 months, 9 months, 12 months to ensure that everything reflects, to ensure that there's that accountability, and that, marketing, that your sales, that even new ideas are following along with this positioning.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, let's focus on the internal, then the what that message looks like and the visuals, but it's at every point. Hey, so say, for example, we've got these clear values. Let's put them out there. Let's test the market. Let's adapt this wording. Okay, hey, we've got this clear positioning. Let's immediately go out there and test this. This is not about waiting 6 months. You know how a lot of the rebrands, they're like, oh my God, we're about to drop something big. You're really building up to it, but you haven't really tested if it's going to work.
Right.
And if it's not uncomfortable, if it feels like something new and different, it's probably not going to work as well.
That's probably right. So we are getting to the end of this conversation. I want to kind of, for those of you who are still here listening, watching, help us connect the dots. How does fixing positioning directly or indirectly affect the pipeline, right, of new sales, new business coming in?
Okay. So just imagine like there's like the two circles. There's like, hey, this is your industry and this is like completely unknown, right? What you want to do is like get somewhere in between, because everybody else in your industry is in this point. So you're just adding into that noise. And, say for example, somebody looks up an accountant, right? They will come up with that 100 accountants, etc., in the same space. And the wording is going to be just a little bit similar. And maybe they'll get on the call with somebody else first. And you might be giving the better service, I'm sure. But if they talk to the other person first and they get that connection, they're going to end up working with them. So getting in that space in between where you're not speaking to everyone, but you're speaking very deeply to the people in that area, yours is going to come up straight away. You're going to be immediately like having that connection. So say, for example, if you're deeply reliant on referrals, at the end of the day, maybe those referrals, the time is like 2 months, for example, because they get in the call, they do that research, then they finally speak to you, etc. That is going to be shortened down because they can relate. They can be like, oh, hey, this is specifically talking to this problem where I'm at, rather than I'm another accountant, sort of thing.
Yeah. So is there anything you've seen somebody do wrong when they repositioned without outside help? Can you pinpoint when somebody repositions and you're like, oh my God, what did they just do? Because, we can all learn from other people's mistakes. I if you don't want to call anybody out, that's fine. But maybe you've seen some things that you're like, yeah, they did that internally and that's really a bad thing, what they did. You have any examples of that?
How about I do you one better and give you like a five thing bullshit test?
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
If there's so bad positioning would fail these.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
One, is it true? So does this actually already, exist in the business? Like, you're not just talking, hey, we do X, Y, Z, and it's just talking fluff for the sake of it. 2, does it matter? So it has to matter to them.
Not to you, to them.
To you.
Yeah.
Which there's so many businesses where it's like, yeah, this is our differentiation. But do they actually care? Have you actually checked with them about this? 3, can competitors copy it? So this is something, if they can easily copy it, if they can easily go, oh yeah, if they just said that, we can just put this into our copy, it's not going to be a strong positioning. It's going to be something that makes them kind of uncomfortable if they want to copy it. Like, oh no, we need to change our operations. Keep in mind, this is not about you doing something completely new. 4, is it provable? Okay. So anytime a customer works with you, this has got to show up consistently. And 5, that's a part of that. Can you actually deliver it? Every single time?
Every single time. And that's the thing, every single time. I was in a conference 2024 at Inbound, and Marcus Sheridan. I've heard him speak so many times. I love his sales, his sales knowledge. And he said this line, like, different is better than better. You don't want to better somebody. You don't want to be better than your competition, because being better just means that you make more noise. And it's hard when you're new to be better anyway. If you're new in the industry and they've been there for 10 years, you can work as hard as you can, but you're never going to be better. What you can be is different. And that gives you instant eyeballs and visibility. So if you've been listening to this, repositioning allows you to be different, even if you're new, even if you're the new person on the block, right? Position yourself as being different than everybody else. Beatrice, this was a very great conversation. I think we could go on for another hour. I might have you back another time to get deeper into this. Yes.
And meaningfully different.
Yes.
I'm going to add in that.
Yes. No, that's true. Yeah. No, you have to offer something that people care about being different. It doesn't mean just putting on orange glasses and looking different than the next, content strategist. It means delivering it in a different way and being different and standing for those values and upholding those when you provide the services. So I totally get that. Where can people meet you? Where are you online? Where can they find your wonderful website and all the things that I was talking about earlier? Because I found you I think we connected on LinkedIn a while back. Where do you want people to connect with you?
So on LinkedIn, Beatrice Gutknecht. My website, badasserybyb.com, or you can catch the podcast as well, which is The Art of Positioning.
Okay, awesome. Well, if you stayed all the way to the end, if you listened to this podcast all the way to the end, I want to thank you for staying with us. I'll be back next week with another episode. Beatrice, thank you so much for being with us today. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.